Imagine the sound. It's not the familiar pop, pop, pop of a rifle. It's this deafening, continuous roar, kind of like a cosmic chainsaw tearing through the fabric of the universe itself. A torrent of fire erupts from 6 spinning barrels, a relentless stream of metal death. In just 12 seconds, a single burst can unleash 1,000 rounds, enough to turn a truck into a sieve or sweep a football field clean of any target. This is not science fiction. This is the raw, untamed power of the M134 Minigun. But what is the true cost of unleashing such a furious storm? What is the price tag attached to 1 minute of this mechanical apocalypse? The spectacle is hypnotic, a terrifying ballet of engineering and violence. The barrels rotate with a blur, each one spitting fire in its turn, creating a solid line of tracers that paints the air with light. The ground shudders from the sheer volume of concussive force. The air grows thick with the smell of cordite and hot metal, a unique and acrid perfume of overwhelming firepower. For those on the receiving end, there is no escape, no time to think, only the sudden and final realization that they're in the path of a man-made hurricane. The experience is so intense, so all-consuming, that it fundamentally alters one's perception of what a firearm can do. This is the weapon that has become a legend in its own right. It's a symbol of absolute uncompromising force. When a minigun opens fire, the rules of the engagement change instantly. Cover becomes concealment, and concealment becomes a death trap. Its purpose isn't precision, but saturation. It's designed to overwhelm, to suppress, to completely dominate an area with a volume of fire that is simply impossible for conventional weapons to counter. The psychological impact is just as potent as the physical destruction it causes. The sound alone is a weapon, a herald of unstoppable devastation that can break the will of an enemy before a single round finds its mark. So, we return to our question, a question that goes far beyond the simple mechanics of the weapon. When we witness this incredible display, we have to ask ourselves about the resources required to make it happen. Unleashing 1 minute of the minigun's fury is a decision that carries a hefty invoice, not just in dollars and cents, but in logistics, maintenance, and human effort. It's a commitment of immense resources for 60 seconds of unparalleled firepower. As we peel back the layers of this iconic weapon, from its history to its inner workings, we're going to uncover the staggering true cost of that one terrifying minute. The story of the minigun begins not in a design studio, but in the brutal crucible of the Vietnam War. In the mid-1960s, American forces faced a new kind of challenge. The dense jungles and guerrilla tactics of the Viet Cong meant that firefights were often close quarters and incredibly sudden. Helicopters, the new cavalry of the sky, were dangerously vulnerable during landing and takeoff. They needed a weapon that could lay down a devastating field of fire, suppressing enemy positions instantly and effectively. The standard machine guns of the era, firing a few hundred rounds per minute, just weren't cutting it against hidden, fleeting targets. General Electric, drawing inspiration from Richard Gatling's 19th century hand-crank design, had an answer. They scaled down their formidable 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, a weapon used on fighter jets, to fire the standard 7.62mm rifle cartridge. The result was the M134. It was a revolutionary weapon system. By using multiple rotating barrels powered by an external electric motor, the M134 could achieve a rate of fire that was previously unimaginable for a weapon of its size. It could spit out thousands of rounds per minute, creating a wall of lead that could saturate an area and neutralize threats before they could even properly engage. Its impact in Vietnam was immediate and profound. Mounted on helicopters like the UH-1 Huey and the AH-1 Cobra, the minigun became the Puff the Magic Dragon of the skies for many ground troops. The distinctive, terrifying buzz of its firing earned it a fearsome reputation among enemy forces. A helicopter gunship equipped with miniguns could provide unparalleled fire support, clearing landing zones and protecting vulnerable troops on the ground. The weapon evolved with the conflict, with improvements made to its mounting systems, ammunition feed mechanisms, and overall reliability in the harsh jungle environment. It wasn't just a gun, it was a complete weapon system. This baptism by fire cemented the minigun's place in military arsenals around the world. It proved that in certain tactical situations, overwhelming volume of fire was the most effective solution. The lessons learned in the jungles of Southeast Asia shaped the weapon's development for decades to come. The M134 was no longer just an experimental concept. It was a proven, battle-hardened tool of war. Its legacy was forged in the heat, humidity, and chaos of Vietnam, creating a legend that would soon escape the confines of military history and thunder its way into popular culture. After the Vietnam War, the M134 minigun might have remained a specialized piece of military hardware known only to soldiers and historians. However, Hollywood had other plans. The weapon's sheer visual and auditory spectacle was just too compelling for filmmakers to ignore. It first blasted its way into the public consciousness in the 1987 film Predator. In one of the most iconic action scenes ever filmed, Jesse Ventura's character, Blaine, unleashes his man-portable minigun, nicknamed Ol' Painless. He scythes down a huge swath of jungle, the sound a visceral roar, the visual a storm of brass casings and muzzle flash. The minigun had arrived as a movie star. This cinematic debut created a myth. Many viewers believed the minigun was a fictional creation, a prop designed to look impossibly powerful for the big screen. The idea of a single soldier carrying and firing such a weapon seemed like pure fantasy. In reality, while a man-portable version is technically possible, it's wildly impractical due to the gun's weight, the massive ammunition load required, and the need for a heavy power source. The movies conveniently ignored the 200-pound battery pack and the 1,000-round ammo box that would need to be carried along with the 85-pound gun. The minigun was real, but its Hollywood portrayal was a larger-than-life caricature. This fame only grew with subsequent blockbusters. The minigun became a staple of high-octane action, showing up in franchises like Media Group, Terminator 2 scene with Arnold Schwarzenegger firing minigun, movies still showing minigun in action, stock, distribute equally. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, where Arnold Schwarzenegger uses one to devastating effect, and The Matrix, where it rips an office lobby to shreds. In every appearance, it served the same narrative purpose. Media Group, cinematic slow motion of minigun firing, intense action sequence with minigun as centerpiece, stock, distribute equally, to represent the absolute peak of conventional firepower, a problem solver of last resort. It became a visual shorthand for unstoppable. The on-screen effect, often enhanced with dramatic sound design and visual effects, solidified the weapon's image as the ultimate gun in the public imagination. This cinematic celebrity has had a lasting effect. It's made the M134 minigun one of the most recognizable firearms in the world, even to people with no interest in military hardware. But it's also shrouded the weapon in a layer of fantasy, separating it from the realities of its use. People see the incredible spectacle on screen but have no concept of the logistics, the cost, or the sheer mechanical complexity behind it. The movie minigun is a bottomless well of firepower. The real minigun is a demanding and expensive system that requires a massive support structure to even function. To truly understand the minigun, we have to look past the movie magic and examine the brilliant and brutal engineering at its core. The M134 isn't a machine gun in the traditional sense. It's a rotary cannon system. Its heart is a set of 6 barrels, a rotor, and a gun housing. Unlike a standard machine gun that has 1 barrel and 1 firing mechanism doing all the work, the minigun divides the labor. As an external electric motor spins the entire barrel cluster, each of the 6 bolts performs one step of the firing sequence, feeding around, chambering it, firing it, and extracting the spent casing, in a continuous, synchronized cycle. This rotary design is the key to its incredible rate of fire. A single barrel on a conventional machine gun would quickly overheat and warp if it tried to fire thousands of rounds per minute. By spreading the load across 6 barrels, the M134 allows each individual barrel time to cool slightly before it's its turn to fire again. This ingenious system, a modern update on Richard Gatling's 19th century invention, allows for a sustained rate of fire between 2,000 and 6,000 rounds per minute. The rate is typically adjustable. letting the operator choose between conserving ammunition or maximizing suppressive effect, which is a pretty critical choice in the heat of battle. Powering this mechanical symphony requires significant energy. The gun is driven by a 28-volt DC electric motor, which draws a tremendous amount of current, around 150 amps under full load. That's why you can't just plug it into a wall socket or run it off a car battery for long. It needs a dedicated power source, usually from the electrical system of a helicopter, an armored vehicle, or a naval vessel. This external power requirement is a major limiting factor, tethering the weapon to a large platform and making the man-portable movie version a logistical nightmare in the real world. The ammunition it fires is the standard 7.62 by 51mm NATO cartridge, the same round used in many Western battle rifles and machine guns. This was a deliberate design choice to simplify logistics. However, the minigun consumes these rounds at a rate that just defies comparison. It doesn't just shoot bullets. It inhales them from a massive ammunition can via a complex delinking feeder system that prepares the belted ammunition for the gun's ferocious appetite. Every component, from the motor to the feeder to the barrels themselves, is a masterpiece of robust engineering, designed to withstand the immense forces of its own operation. Now we arrive at the heart of the matter: the cost of feeding the beast. The M134's astronomical rate of fire comes with an equally astronomical consumption of ammunition. Let's set the gun to a conservative, real-world rate of fire, one often used to balance effectiveness with ammunition conservation. We will use 3,000 rounds per minute. This means that for every single second the trigger is depressed, the gun fires 50 rounds. A person can't even say the word minigun in the time it takes to expend a full 30-round magazine from a standard rifle. It's a rate of consumption that is, honestly, difficult to comprehend. For 1 full minute of continuous fire at this rate, the M134 will consume exactly 3,000 cartridges. To put that into perspective, that is 100 standard 30-round rifle magazines. Imagine a soldier carrying that much ammunition. It would be an impossible burden. This is why the minigun is fed from large boxes or hoppers containing thousands of rounds linked together in long belts. A typical ammunition can for an airborne M134 might hold 4,000 rounds, giving the gunner just over 80 seconds of total firing time before needing a lengthy and dangerous reload. The cost of this ammunition is where the numbers begin to get truly staggering. The price of military-grade 7.62 by 51mm NATO ammunition can vary based on the contract, the type of round, ball, tracer, or armor-piercing, and the manufacturer. As of late 2025, a conservative estimate for bulk government purchase places the cost at around $2.50 per round. This is not the price you would pay at a local gun store, but the price negotiated through massive defense contracts. Even at this discounted rate, the expense adds up with blinding speed. Let's do the simple, terrifying math. If one round costs $2.50 and the gun fires 3,000 rounds in a minute, the cost of the ammunition alone for that single minute of fire is a staggering $7,500. Let that sink in. $7,500. That is more than many people earn in a month, spent in 60 seconds. If the gunner were to switch to the maximum rate of fire, 6,000 rounds per minute, that cost doubles to an unbelievable $15,000 per minute. This is the raw, direct cost of pulling the trigger, before we even consider any of the other expenses involved in getting the gun to the battlefield. A single minute of firing a minigun at a rate of 3,000 rounds per minute costs $7,500 in ammunition alone. But what does that number actually mean? Let's break it down into smaller, more digestible chunks of time. Each second of firing, where 50 rounds fly down range, costs $125. A short, controlled 3-second burst, a standard tactic to manage recoil and conserve ammo, still rings up a bill of $375. That's the price of a high-end gaming console or a round-trip domestic flight, gone in the blink of an eye. The financial implications of every trigger pull are immense. To understand the scale of this expense, we can compare it to other military firearms. A standard M4 carbine, firing at a practical rate, might go through 60 rounds in a minute of sustained combat. The cost for that minute would be around $150. A squad automatic weapon like the M249 might fire 200 rounds in the same period, costing about $500. The minigun, in that same minute, costs 10 to 15 times more than a dedicated squad-level machine gun. It operates on a completely different financial plane, a weapon whose use must be justified by the severity of the threat. Let's take our 1 minute $7,500 figure and look at it through the lens of a single military operation. A helicopter gunship might fly a mission lasting several hours. During that time, it might engage targets multiple times. If the gunner fires the minigun for a cumulative total of just 4 minutes throughout the entire mission, the ammunition cost alone would be $30,000. For a squadron of 4 such helicopters on a single day's operations, the ammunition bill could easily climb into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a weapon system so expensive to operate that its use is a significant budgetary consideration. This cost also has a direct impact on training. Soldiers cannot simply go to the range and practice with a minigun as they would with a rifle. Every second of training time costs a fortune. Because of this, much of the training is done on advanced simulators that replicate the feel and function of the weapon without expending live ammunition. Live fire exercises are rare, expensive, and meticulously planned events. The high cost of ammunition enforces a strict discipline on the weapon's use, ensuring that it is reserved for moments when its unique capabilities are absolutely essential to mission success. The $7,500 for a minute of ammunition is just the tip of the iceberg. The true cost of that minute of fire includes a vast and expensive logistical tale that is largely invisible to the casual observer. First, there is the gun itself. A new M134 minigun system from a manufacturer like Dillon Aero can cost upwards of $100,000, and that's before you add the specialized mount, the power supply, and the ammunition feed system. This is a significant capital investment for a single weapon. And like any high-performance machine, it requires constant and meticulous maintenance to keep it running. The barrels, for instance, have a finite lifespan. While the rotary design helps manage heat, firing thousands of rounds still causes extreme wear. A set of 6 barrels might need to be replaced after firing 100,000 rounds. At 3,000 rounds per minute, that means the barrels require replacement after about 33 minutes of total firing time. A new set of barrels can cost over $10,000. So, for every minute of fire, you are effectively using up about $300 worth of barrel life. This cost must be factored into the operational budget, just like fuel for a truck. Then there is the cost of transport and manpower. The 3,000 rounds needed for 1 minute of fire weigh approximately 165 pounds. This isn't something a soldier can just carry in a backpack. This ammunition must be manufactured, packaged, shipped across oceans, flown to a forward operating base, loaded onto a vehicle or helicopter, and finally loaded into the weapon's feed system. Each step in this supply chain involves fuel, vehicles, and personnel, all of which have their own associated costs. Highly trained armorers must spend hours inspecting, cleaning, and repairing the weapons to ensure they don't fail at a critical moment. Let's try to put a rough number on these hidden costs. When you factor in the prorated cost of the weapon's wear and tear, barrel life, motor maintenance, the manpower for the armorers, and the immense logistical cost of transporting the heavy ammunition from the factory to the firing line, experts estimate these support costs can add another 50% to 100% to the price of the ammunition. This means our initial $7,500 per minute can realistically swell to between $11,000 and $15,000. Suddenly, that 1 minute of fire is not just expensive. It is a monumental expenditure of military resources. To truly grasp the magnitude of spending over $11,000 in a single minute, it helps to compare this cost to things we understand from civilian life. It's a way to translate the abstract cost of warfare into the tangible value of everyday luxuries and necessities. That 1 minute of suppressive fire, that 60-second roar of the M134, costs more than a brand new Rolex Submariner watch. Imagine strapping a classic luxury timepiece to every single round fired in that minute, and you get a sense of the value being vaporized into noise and heat. It is an astonishing thought. Let's expand this comparison. The $11,000 spent in that minute is enough to buy a reliable used car. It could cover the down payment on a small house in many parts of the country. For a family of 4, it could pay for a luxury, all-inclusive vacation to a tropical resort for a week. It represents more than a year's worth of groceries for the average household. When the trigger is held down, it is not just bullets that are flying. It is the embodiment of economic opportunity, security, and comfort being expended at a rate of nearly $200 per second. Consider higher education, often seen as one of the most significant investments a person can make in their future. The average cost for a year of tuition at a public, in-state university in the United States is roughly $11,000. This means that 1 minute of firing a minigun is financially equivalent to providing a student with a full year of college education. A single brief firefight involving several minutes of minigun use could equate to the cost of a 4-year degree. This juxtaposition of destructive power against constructive investment is stark and unsettling. These comparisons are not meant to be a direct moral judgment on military spending. The minigun serves a critical role in protecting lives and achieving military objectives in situations where nothing else will suffice. However, these analogies are crucial for understanding the sheer scale of resources involved. They ground the abstract figures of a defense budget in the realities of our own lives. They force us to recognize that the cost of projecting force is measured not only in strategic gains, but also in the immense opportunity cost of what else that money could have achieved in the civilian world. We have journeyed from the jungles of Vietnam to the silver screen, and from the engineer's blueprint to the accountant's ledger. We have seen how the M134 Minigun, born of a need for overwhelming firepower, evolved into a cultural icon and a marvel of mechanical engineering. We have dissected its function, calculated the cost of its ammunition, and accounted for the vast logistical network required to support it. The final tally is breathtaking. A single minute of operation can easily cost more than $11,000, the price of a car, a year of college, or a lifetime of security for some. This is the paradox of the minigun. It is a weapon designed to save the lives of soldiers by delivering an unsurvivable volume of fire upon their enemies. In the terrifying moments of a helicopter assault or a convoy ambush, when seconds mean the difference between life and death, there is no question of its value. To the soldiers on the ground, the sound of an approaching minigun is the sound of salvation. In those critical moments, the cost is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is its ability to dominate the battlefield and bring friendly forces home safely. Yet, we cannot ignore the staggering price. The resources poured into that 1 minute of fire represent a significant investment. It is a concentration of national treasure, of labor, manufacturing, and raw materials, focused into a 60-second burst of extreme violence. This incredible cost enforces a powerful discipline. The minigun is not a weapon to be used lightly. It is a surgical instrument of overwhelming force, reserved for the most critical and dangerous moments where no lesser tool will suffice. Its expense is a constant reminder of the gravity of its use. And so, we are left with a final, lingering question. The M134 minigun offers its user a minute of near omnipotence on the battlefield, a brief window of unstoppable power. We have meticulously calculated the financial cost of that power, a figure that is undeniably immense. But as the last echo of that terrifying roar fades, we must ask ourselves a deeper question. When power comes at such a price, what is its true worth? And in the final accounting of conflict, how do we measure the value of that one devastating minute?